It's visible now.
Okay. Maybe. Okay. Maybe I am also using hotspot, so thoda maybe there's a delay. Right. So primarily, what does the business technology platform enables to drive with S4 to typically say is one, innovation, automation, even sustainability for that matter. Carbon footprint and those kind of things. We have a pre-trained or a pre-built analytical layer called sustainability control tower on SAP, because today sustainability and BRSR is becoming a big focus area. So we have a sustainability related content as well. All of these are pre-built content. There are use cases to derive from SAP application. There is flexibility to choose multiple data centers, and ultimately it's meant to be more agile, right? To make IT and citizen data scientists use this much faster. And the kind of KPIs that typically we have seen this drive is right around TCO of integration across landscape with the integration suite, ability to quickly generate reports and reduce the bottlenecks, cost savings when you are creating new customizations, business models, faster insights, lesser IT spend for customization, leveraging data more for business context, and faster project speed, and also from a UX standpoint, reducing legacy interfaces to something that is mobile first, UI5 driven kind of a thing, right? So these are typically the outcomes that we have. Sure.
You talked about BSR and then TCO. We don't know the full form of that.
So the BRSR. So the BRSR is the union government's. I also don't know the full form, frankly, but that is the union government's mandatory sustainability thing that you have to provide if you are a listed company in India, about your sustainability footprint. So it has multiple segments. So right from your carbon footprint to your sustainable sourcing to diversity in the organization. There are 6 segments in BRSR.
So basically, you are talking about what the COP26 and COP27
correct. Equivalent to
that is
India,
applicable to all of the countries who are.
So in India, BRSR is the Indian government's derivation of the COP26 and the UN SDG.
Business responsibility and sustainability.
Business responsibility and sustainability reporting is BRSR.
Okay. Is it same as earlier it was used to be called as BRR?
Yes. This is the next version of BRR from the Indian government. So Indian companies which are listed, they are always asking us, right? How do we ensure that our reporting to the government is in target? So that's where this has become sustainability has become a big focus area this year, especially for listed companies.
And what is TCO?
Total cost of ownership.
So we would request you to please.
My bad. Please. No, please ask me. I know it's a larger group and everybody might be a different thing. Absolutely. Happy to.
Business responsibility and sustainability reporting. BRS.
Sir. TCO is total cost of ownership. That is the overall value, time to value for the solution. And in SAP, we use a lot of 3-letter acronyms because SAP itself is a 3-letter acronym. Okay, so what is the business technology platform? So a business technology platform is to answer your question, a set of microservices which are available to ensure that there is an intuitive modern development environment for be it IT, be it business users, or even a data analyst kind of a role. Multiple personas, there are different tools which we will speak about, which enable us to create any custom applications, leverage existing applications, more importantly, leveraging the technology of your choice. So somebody might be comfortable in Python, somebody might be in Java, somebody might just know the business process and might want a drag and drop, right? Or somebody might want to just take what is there in SAP and tweak some business rules, right? So that flexibility across is available. Of course, there are pre-built models, integrations, workflows, artificial intelligence, business services, which we will speak about. From an analytics standpoint, of course, there is self-service data discovery, modeling, financial planning templates, workforce planning templates, and all of that in a governed environment. And this is a platform as a service available on any hyperscaler of your choice if you have a preference, but otherwise we also can recommend which data center to use. But this is a purely a cloud based solution. Which primarily works on a subscription basis, right? So you can choose, in fact, right, among the various microservices that are there in BTP, depending on your use case, which one to choose, right? So I also have a slide, for example, even when you are going live with S4HANA, there are some services which are very specifically can be leveraged. So if that is used only during your migration or during your implementation, and if you want to shut that off later, that flexibility is there to shut on and off services whenever you want to. Now, sure.
Right now you spoke about Python and R programming.
Huh.
Python and R programming languages, can it be integrated to ABAP coding?
There is an environment. I will speak about it. I'll remember this. I'll come to when I absolutely. So the idea essentially is to say that today to work with SAP, you don't have to be only an ABAPer. You might be, so we also provide an ABAP environment, but we also provide Python, R, Node.js, ability to work with Julia notebooks, Jupyter notebooks, and all of that using BTP, so that the technical expertise is not a bottleneck anymore to work from with SAP. That's something that we have done. And in fact, this entire framework is built on what we call as Cloud Foundry 2.0. If you're aware, that is a open framework from various companies to ensure that that skill set is not very niche anymore. It works on generic skill set. It works on all Kubernetes containerized architectures, which can scale up, scale down dynamically. Very native, modern, and open.
Is it similar to the features that you have in AWS? The environment they provide for data warehousing and doing all the
some part of it will be there. So that's where if you look at these 4 pillars that we are. Thank you. The 4 pillars that are there in the business technology platform, which kind of complement the core, right? Which is ERP and all of that. There are 4 broad pillars. Okay. So one is the app development, which means all the customizations, the extended app, and all of that you want to use. Second is the integration, which basically means opening up SAP to the external world. This could be DMS, this could be any other application. So it can be app to app integration, app to data integration. That means I'm pulling data from a particular place. So for example, data from your website cookies and all of that. A scenario that we were discussing when we were doing the demand sensing last in 2020 was to say, can I look at what YouTubers are saying about my new model, do a sentiment analysis, give a weightage to it, and then bring it in. So how do I do sentiment analysis? How do I do deep learning, and then bring it? So all of those services are there. So application development is primarily an extension platform, right? Extending S4HANA like a dealer app or a driver app or anything like that, any custom app development, very quickly something that falls into this pillar. I will talk about what are the microservices here. The second is the integration suite, which has more than 2,000 plus open adapters to hyperscalers, to any other application that you can think of, like from Tally to Zoho to Freshworks to Workday to ServiceNow. Whatever app-to-app integration, we have certified integrations as part of the integration to SharePoint and all of that. The data and analytics portfolio is primarily the data warehouse, where we have the SAP-centric data warehouse and data mart engine, and also the planning and analytics engine. So right from financial planning templates, workflow planning, cash flow, P&L planning, and CFO dashboards, and all of this, kind of fall into this data and analytics pillar. I'll talk about the services here. The final service, is about AI. Right, so all the pre-trained artificial intelligence like OCR and all of that, the ability to bring your own model. So we call it BYOL, bring your own license or bring your own model. And then also the entire capabilities around workflow and RPA, right? The pre-trained RPA bots, custom RPA bots, all of them fall into the AI bucket. So in reality, if you look at, since you asked that question, apple to apple, let's say a data and analytics, or let's say there is the data part, frankly, maybe falls a little on where an Amazon or any hyperscaler plays. The analytics would be where a little more of where a Power BI or a Tableau or Quick plays. AI is typically, for example, where a SaaS or even, but the only difference is nobody has that pre-trained content for S4HANA. This is a unique differentiator, but AI, you understand. Integration is where, for example, a MuleSoft, from the market, typically play. But SAP integration suite, for example, on Gartner is rated higher than MuleSoft in terms of integrations and in terms of the number of customers who use it as well. And similarly, an app development is typically little like a Power Apps kind of a thing. But again, that is a very standalone system. But here it is all integrated native workflows to SAP and all of that. So if you really look at it, business technology platform becomes that one unique offering from SAP under a master umbrella, which allows us to leverage everything and anything that you would need to build satellites around your core SAP, right? Broadly, and you can think of any use case, right? You can say predicting, looking at taking a picture of a vehicle, looking at the damage, predicting what spare parts I need, and then based on that create a purchase order and bring it. All you need is ultimately these 4 microservices. I use an AI to do a deep learning, do a fact extraction. From there, I do a similarity scoring to see which is the material from there. From there, I use a workflow to create a purchase order for that, so that I use the integration engine. Is that particular material there in my stock or not, or I have to go and do a procurement? That is something that analytics will do, and this entire thing can be a custom app driven by app development. So that is why we say these are the set of microservices which can all together come to solve for any business problem that you can think of and foresee. But of course, there are a lot of standard things as well, which we have and we keep delivering every 6 months, looking at some of the very common requirements that are there, right? So like the GST that you were just speaking about is one example. Let's say the entire thing around cash flow forecasting is another example. So these are scenarios which are very common across the board, where SAP said, okay, let us make it a standard content. And we keep delivering this pre-trained standard content free of cost as part of our content library on the platform.
What about this in the app dev? If we have Power BI and Power BI, we can directly connect to the HANA database and
you can.
Database.
You can. So if you look at all of these are also loosely coupled, in that sense, right? So for example, if I say that in data and analytics, let's say for the analytics part, you say I have a Power BI. Okay, so the analytics of Power BI can directly connect to my data warehouse, or if again, connecting to S/4HANA is not easy, but S/4HANA does provide some open API, so you can extract the data, put it under the Power BI database and still do it. But ideally, we would recommend to bring it to the data warehouse, and Power BI can connect directly to the data warehouse. AI. So frankly, let's say TensorFlow is a much more established deep learning thing. So we are cognizant of that, and we have a go-to-market with all the 3 hyperscalers. So if you want to bring a TensorFlow model into this landscape, or if you want to bring a Azure Data Factory model, you can call all of those AI models also into this. So in any of this, while we provide all of this, in no way we are saying that this is a closed loop. There might always be some gaps where you have to do customization, you have to get from some other service provider or whatever. We are completely open around it. But then if you look at the double click on each of these, as I said, process automation, digital experience to create, very easy to use UI5 applications, and is this actually? And all of this to be done either in a low code or a no code. So we have acquired a lot of companies. The most recent one called an AppGyver. So AppGyver specializes in no code platform, right? So we do workshops with customers where within a matter of 3 hours, a person who has no technical know-how is able to do app from scratch, right? So that is the low code capability that the no code capability that we have. So similarly, we have low code. We have a tool called Mendix. We have pro code, which is where you can actually script and do it in HANA Studio. The entire DevOps is taken care of. Similarly, in integration, I said right from event mesh for real-time integrations to API-led integrations, app-to-app integration, which we call as process integration, to app-to-data integration. All of these microservices are there. Data and data analytics, I spoke about database, data management, analytics. And one of the unique things, because I don't have planning as a separate pillar, is planning is also here. But again, this is something that is very powerful from SAP, typically for financial planning, for integrated financial planning, CFO reporting, cash flow forecasting, and those kind of things. They all come into that bucket. And then we have the AI, right, where we have the pre-built AI model that we provide, but also the RPA-based and workflow-based intelligent processes mapping, programs, all of them are self-learning. So, looking at the data, they will retrain themselves on a scheduled basis. And more importantly, this entire thing comes under that entire GDPR, data security, and decentralized persistence. So, which actually means is that, for example, if data is in S4HANA, if you are taking this to do automation anywhere else, you have to first take a copy of the data out, right? But with the persistence layer, what we are able to do is we don't necessarily have to move the data for any use case. Data can still stay where it is. All of this can work on the metadata. So that in turn, what it also ensures is your governance layer, your authentication layer, authorization, and all of that you maintain in S4HANA is replicated across the board. You don't have to relook at replicating and creating authorizations, authentications for all the users somewhere outside. So that becomes another fundamental pillar.
One query here.
Sure.
So does that mean that I need not build the data warehouse? As for an example, I need not build the data warehouse as such the data is readily available to me to build any kind of analytics over and above?
Yeah, good question. So it actually depends on what is the kind of analytics. So for example, in SAC, we provide a plug and play CFO dashboard. So that can directly connect to S4. Days sales, days payable outstanding, my overall KPIs and all of that, actually you can plug and play and get. Right? Similarly, we have for procurement and all of that. But the moment it becomes cross-modular analytics, which is very specific to your organization, which may be from PP, SD module of SAP, plus maybe some data coming from outside of SAP also. So then layer becomes a little important for me to really write a SQL script, for me to really drag and drop and create, an outer join and inner join based on which I have a new data model, which is then exposed to the analytical tool. Then the data warehouse, I would say, is relevant. And frankly, I think in automotive and CPG and these kind of industry, it's very relevant because it's not just, like a lending straightforward KPIs, all new KPI sources coming in. And again, in the data warehouse, even we had pre-built data models. So if you know SAP BW from, if you have an experience, we used to have something called as SAP Business Warehouse in the ERP days, in the older ECC days. So there, the biggest prowess that brought in was it brought the cube structure for reporting, right? So that very similar, and people used to use it or still use it around the world for the content that it provides for analytics out of the box. So the same content is now provided with the data warehouse on cloud, which we call as SAP data warehouse. So I would say in 70% of the cases that would still be relevant. And it can also, again, has live connections to any data lake that you might be using outside of SAP, be it a BigQuery or an ADL. You can have it outside and it has a direct connection. Even without replicating data from there, it can bring a virtual data model and you can visualize and take it up and all of that. So data architecture then becomes a separate topic in itself. But I would say 4% of your reporting that you do in terms of operational reporting, what I would call, those can come directly out of S4HANA. But for the other 60%, where it is a little more strategic, a little more contextual, then I would strongly recommend a data warehousing-led approach.
Especially when it becomes cross-modular also.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
We have captured 30 minutes for the overview. Then
Okay.
we have to get into pillars.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Thank you. No, yeah, that helps. So these are all the microservices. So I'll not spend too much time. So whatever I said as core capabilities, these are actual names of the services, right? So the AppGyver is the low-code, no-code platform. Business Application Studio is the pro-code. Then we have WorkZone for collaboration. Launchpad is the UI5. And I won't go into all of these details. But these are the various microservices that are available, which you can pick and choose for leveraging whenever you want to leverage them.
Just one question: are there some adapters available to consume the Java programs also?
So if you have written a Java program outside?
No, I'm just saying.
So you can write in Java here. So this, for example, SAP Business Application Studio understands Java, Angular, Node.js, and all of that. So you would basically port the script here and run it from here, in a container here, ideally.
So what about the integration from BTP to SAP, SAP SuccessFactors and
all of that is
absolutely. Do we need to have API integrations or
no? So they're all native.
They're
all native. In fact, SAP though is given, but even beyond SAP like Salesforce, Tally, and all of that I mentioned is also out of the box. as part of this integration suite. Right. So when you look at this cloud integration framework, most of the global cloud applications are covered in the cloud integration suite. API based integration is also available, but those will be for very specific custom applications you might have built and all of that. Okay. And importantly, there is something called as an intelligent assessment right here. So this is actually an AI based recommender. It can look at your source system and your target system and say out of the 2000 plus adapters that the system has, which would be the right protocol to connect. It can actually recommend. So that is also a very useful tool when we are doing the recommendation. Again, these are all the AI business services that I was just speaking. So overall, there are about 70 odd microservices that are available like this, which are all, which can be leveraged. Okay, so now we'll go into the pillars. So we'll start with the, extending piece, right? As I said, creating the custom applications. So, so if you look at, as I said, there are three kind of, user types that could be either a pro code, either a low code or a no code. Okay. So pro code is typically for somebody with professional experience who would want to use a Node.js, Angular or ABAP even for that matter. So we typically have a solution called Business Application Studio, which allows us to do that. For low code development, we have, the Mendix and a low code, but frankly, today people either use pro code or no code, right? Low code becomes kind of a in between, which is not that useful. So in no code we have what we call as the SAP App Giver. So between SAP Business Application Studio and SAP App Giver, your entire coding is taken care of. And as far as the integration capabilities are concerned, that come from Integration Suite. SAP Process Automation is basically all the RPA chatbot workflows, pre-trained ones that are available. And on top, we have written digital experience. This is the SAP mobile app, custom mobile app, and all of that you can create, which becomes the wrapper. Right. So then these two are the development layers. These two are the automation layer, and this is the UX layer. That's how we read this in terms of how we use it. And as I said, right, so it can be a professional developer or a citizen developer that can leverage that depending on the tool of choice ultimately. So, so as I said, building, automating, and consuming. That was the previous slide that we talked about. Now, if you look at this, is kind of a double click on capabilities that we have from an app development. We have recently rechristened this entire thing as SAP Build, right? So SAP Build basically means that it is a set of microservices that are available to build any identify bottlenecks, build any customization and deploy it, right? So all of the capabilities that I need is available here. So right from, the various services that I need, for example, AI and automation, workflow and business rule services, mobile services, the entire business services catalog that is available, to the application framework for UI5, for ABAP modeling, for mobile development, mobile app development, and all of that. The Business Application Studio, Process Automation, App Giver for building the product, and this entire consumption part of it, where Workzone is more of a collaboration kind of a framework. Then you have Launchpad, which can be a custom UI5 app. Task Center is more like having your own like multiple approvals that are coming, and you need to go and approve them, kind of a thing. So that becomes your Task Center more or less. So that is there. Then we also have process related dashboards. For example, in an order to cash, procure to pay, what is the overall average cycle, and all of that. And as I said, integrate all of SAP solutions, and we have content not just for S4HANA, but we have content also for the surround solutions. So for example, for SAP Concur, we have a pre-built dashboard of overall transportation analytics. So looking at by vendor, what is the spend, what is the deviation. So these are some pre-trained analytics that are available. Similarly for success factors, Ariba and the likes, and also it integrates with all the third party. Any questions here?
Just a small query related to the task center.
Okay.
Currently, we have a challenging situation where each individual is getting a lot of notification from various applications, and he's not able to make out how many notifications are there, and he might miss on some of them.
Correct.
Will this task center enable the user to get all in
One place, absolutely. It is meant to be a library of all the open tasks. So then you can either choose to have a notification to say a new task has been added, or even on a mobile to just have a push notification kind of a thing. You can go into the app and see all the open and closed tasks, and you can manually approve or reject. So it's meant to become a unified place for all tasks across the board. Approval, rejection, requisition, whatever it is.
So SAP standard is not having this user task.
There is within S4HANA, but then there might also be some tasks which is outside of SAP. So
in this you will integrate
all of them, SAP plus any custom tasks that you create, which also has dependency outside of the board. So for example, a leave requisition or a budget for an offsite. These are some examples I have seen. So those approvals typically don't go through the ERP flow. So those also can come. A new device request, app, laptop request, those approvals, all of that can come into one unified task center.
For that we have to have a warehouse.
No. So this is all tasks. So this is not data led. So this just becomes workflows. So a task center doesn't need a database or anything at the backend. So you just use the task center to create your tasks, be it on S4HANA or there. So it will just remember the task flows and it will have an inbox for the task. And as and when I approve or reject, it will go to the target system and execute or do the transaction.
Is it live or there is some lag between?
It will all be live. It will all be live because I don't store the response in the task center. Task center is just an interface. Any yes or no I do is through the API is directly on the source system only. This is just a wrapper. Right?
One more thing.
Sure.
What is the thin line between the SAP and this BTP platform wherein I can take a decision that this specific customization I require to carry out within the SAP or whether it is in the BTP?
Ma'am, SAP's recommendation is to keep the core clean. That means zero customizations on ERP and do everything outside. So whatever you need for that, be it ABAP runtimes, be it any custom logic that Z reports or equivalent that people used to do from the older ERP, we do all of that as in BTP as a satellite and call them as functions within S4.
But in that case, database will reside on the cloud for BTP.
Yes, if we are using a
transaction-based customizations, we would like database to be on
correct.
Itself.
No, fair.
How it will serve.
Correct. So what I'm saying is, so for example, there is an application as a front end where 80% of it is the ERP specific application, 20% is custom, but ultimately the data has to go into ERP. That is fine. But I'm saying we don't want to create that as a new custom table, new custom T code or a new custom transaction on the ERP. We do that front-ending part of it and creating that logic on the BTP, and then we write it to the tables within the ERP, right? Into the standard table.
Take an example. It's the example wherein I'm using the SAP's base tables and additional fields I'm consuming as my custom requirement to fulfill my requirement. Okay. So now in that case, I need not require to go create the new C table.
Correct.
Okay. But some functionality I require to build in so that the data capturing or storing can happen in that additional field within the standard. So now, what do you call this as? Whether
So this is typically a customization. Okay.
right.
So this is what we have something called as a ABAP runtime on BTP, which allows us to do these customizations, and it will actually store that custom data also within the BTP runtime only. It will not write back to S4HANA, but it will be linked via metadata. So for example, if I then query back, and let's say 80% of those queries are from standard table, 20% of it is coming from custom, the metadata will pull equally from both. Right. So that is how then we can keep the core clean without for an user, he won't know whether the query is coming from S4 or this. And all of this can be done at a Fiori tile only. You don't have to create a custom UI for this. So the front end can still be very much the Fiori of S4 HANA, but just that the source of that Fiori tile might not be 100% HANA DB, 80% HANA DB, 20% somewhere, but the same Fiori tile.
Basically, the bottom line is to handle it via the logics so that the data from whether it is BTP or this thing, okay, you handle it via your the write-up or code, so
Yes.
that none of the Z content or the
Is created.
is
Correct.
created in the SAP.
Correct. Absolutely. Because even today, some customers are even going for the public cloud. So in public cloud, even if you want something, you cannot do it. And every time there is an upgrade and all of that, it becomes a challenge. So as a best practice, we strongly recommend that we don't do customization. However, the system does allow to do it, but then that is the best practice.
What would be the response if you, it will not come because we have a on-prem S/4HANA and it will be on cloud.
Yes.
So how will manage the response and all those?
So typically these are very lightweight applications. So I have personally, in fact, I have seen the cloud response time sometimes faster, but for that wouldn't be a challenge in terms of the query response. Of course, the internet bandwidth is needed. Apart from that, you will not have any operational challenges that one part of the data is loaded, other fails or something like that. Everything anyway comes with a 99.9% SLA in terms of the uptime, in terms of the response rates and all of that.
So we need to have a dedicated tunnel sort of thing or?
So there are two options. So it is ultimately a public cloud, right? But for some services, we provide a dedicated tenant called a private instance within the public cloud. But for some services which are not mission critical, we only provide the shared tenant. But however, all of these have a scale up and scale down compute. So at no point, or at least I have not seen in the 5-6 years of the existence of SAP's cloud services, where because somebody went on a public cloud, the performance is suffering. No, because we have a lot of compute which are shared between multiple tenants. So it manages, right? It's not an issue.
Just a small query.
Sure.
See, traditionally what we have been doing is that for all customizations, we have various nodes in SAP. And on those nodes, we write the BAPIs and BAPIs.
Yes.
And we link them and we do the customization.
Yes.
Now you're saying that BTP would be better.
Correct.
How do we decide that which one to adopt, either BTP or this?
So again, BADIs and BAPI concept, we are saying don't use it. Don't use it in S/4HANA. In fact, S/4HANA, it is not easy also to write a BADI or a BAPI. You have to write it as a custom logic, right? Because that entire concept of a Z or that ECC structure itself is not there anymore. So again, yeah, best practice, don't use BADI or BAPI customization on ERP, but wherever required. So for example, in the planning tool, right? So there is a table in SAP called AC.P, which is the planning table for finance. Now you might say that the financial planning that I do, I want to write back. So typically in the ECC world, you have to write a BAPI, but SAP has now made that a standard integration where you can click a button, it will write back to AC.P. Right. So those are, some are out of the box, some can be natively created as logic, but again, do all of that in the BTP customization only.
BADI and BAPI are
Not there in S. They are for ECC.
They are for ECC. And
Currently, whatever.
why is this not being taken care in the S/4HANA? We just wanted to understand.
So one is the entire structure of S/4HANA, the way it has been built. Right. Earlier, there was a clear differentiation between the application layer and the database layer. ECC would run on any DB. Right. So then we only had the application that SAP provided. So we completely had BADI and BAPI as the way to do all of those customizations. We didn't have something like a BTP back then. So there was no way for us to go and preach that keep the core clean, because there was no other way to do business. But today, with the advent of BTP and the tight integration that the application layer and the DB layer has between S4 and HANA, ensures that if I start doing a lot of customizations, everything will have a an impact on the DB layer, right? An example is, for example, in ECC on HANA, there were physical aggregates that used to be stored when ECC was running on an Oracle or something like that, multiple levels of aggregates. But HANA only works on the source tables. All the aggregates are created as virtual data models. So there, for example, AC Doka is your consolidated financial table, or BSEG is your consolidated, material table. So here, if I have to create one additional column, that kind of screws up the entire structure of AC Doka and all of the pre-built content that I talk about. be it the CFO dashboard, be it the workflow, all of them start, have to be again retweaked. So that's where then, our recommendation is to say that keep that part of the core clean. Don't write BADI, BAPI, custom set tables and logic there. Try to do it in BTP, and then have that Fiori still as the unified layer, which can bring from both places.
Z table we have to create in BTP.
So not Z table, but the equivalent, any customization like Z. But that Z table concept again is not there in S4.
It is a kind of separate code possibilities.
Typically, sir, if you look at the early adopters of SAP, they call SAP as a ZSAP. They created their own ERP inside our ERP, and maybe you might have done that in the past also. The thing is, we paid 50 penalties for doing that, even including my customers also doing that. So that is where we realized that, if in the coming years, if the technology is changing so fast, the business requirements are changing fast, making that kind of environment, keeping pace with the technology changes and the process changes required is going to be a nightmare. That is where we get customers to see as much as possible you adopt a standard solution. If business cannot proceed with a standard solution, look at an add-on solution or an embedded solution and available with SAP, go with that module. No, nothing is working out. You have to create a custom, then look at this. And in your case, it could be possible because we have a slight deviation here. When we look at from the different customers to Maruti Suzuki, we have taken cautiously a few calls that we will keep our servers in-house. And it has to run even in a LLM kind of environment. Couple of places you still wanted to take a BAPI approach because you wanted to keep an on-prem versus on-prem integration, keeping the world outside out. So some calls, absolutely in your business context, you have to take, then that is the deliberation. So how do we come to that? I think this is a very good question. Where do I see that thin line? Where should I differentiate? Whether I do it here in the inside the S4 box, or I put an add-on, or I put a complete custom. And so if we, if I succeed in this today's session, probably what we will come out is that we will understand that, okay, integration related things, okay, these are the 3-4 people who needs to have that knowledge, who can take those calls. Probably once you get the basic idea that what kind of integration technology is available with SAP, and we can do a separate session looking at the integration requirements, capabilities versus which is the best match for you. Typically on the customizations which are coming out because of the workflows or any other customization, probably we'll set up a small team and try to give you more hands-on on that so that you will be able to take that in-line decision.
But it can be a hybrid approach also.
Absolutely.
It can be. It's just a best practice from our side.
You said, nice. Look at the table in finance actually.
Okay.
You see DocP and Doka. So maybe we won't like to do any customization.
Yes. Yeah, on that.
So
better to do it
on
outside.
The hybrid approach, I can give you 2 classic examples. Today, most of my customers' portals, supplier portal, dealer portals, doesn't have a complete sourcing cycle or an end-to-end cycle like an Ariba kind of thing. They just need an ASN to come in. The partners have created the portals on BTP. Our eWay and the IRN bill comes through the integration platform of this. So hybrid, 99% or 100% of my customers are the hybrid approach. We have just got entered into that 100% cloud, and few customers, very few customers, gone live with 100% cloud.
Yeah, that's where I am very clear to say it's not don't do, but that is the best practice. But of course, during blueprinting, we really take a call whether, like you said, some critical table that we don't want to touch, which has dependency on other thing. We can, look at, but for others.
Maybe your production system, while the technology may be there, you have your own protocols. So it cannot be opened up for many purposes. There will be a set of permissions you may get. It's gone out of the presentation mode.
So while making FSTs for our customized biceps, we have to decide at that time itself whether to go for BTP or
correct.
Okay.
So I
to make it as similar for a BTP screen and an S4 screen, that is possible because both of them are on the UI file.
So yeah, Fiori as a standard theme, because we want to maintain the unified one, is one of the themes of BTP. But having said that, people also develop their front-end portals or employee portals on BTP. So that you can say need to be completely a different look and feel for company colors and all of that, apart from an S4HANA screen. So that is completely like you can write something in Angular or Node.js and create a very fancy looking application. It's supported as well. But for just in the sense of uniformity, what we recommend is we use the same Fiori design principles for at least core application extensions, but for non-satellite application extensions, we can use that. So before I go further, this was a slide that I had. I mean, I had initially not planned to cover it, but I wanted to just of this view where we can take a call when we are looking at a migration. Of course, this says RISE, so but it is also relevant for on-prem to say while I prepare and clean my data, optimize my processes, migrate my S4, then share the S4 data, derive intelligence, and build apps, right? So what are the of course this is must have, should have, and would have, which is our point of view, but just leaving that aside, we are saying, for example, when we are doing the migrate and maintain, right? So we typically have things like an impact analysis, which allow us to look at what would be the impact of having an application outside, to something called as a Signavio workflow, which actually allows me to model a particular process flow and look at where it is coming from. And a very simple example is if my approval sits in a separate workflow box without sending an email, and the average time for a person to do that is, let's say, 3 days, how is my overall procure to pay cycle deviating from my SLA, right? Or my order to cash deviating from my SLA? Those kind of things can be modeled, in something like a Signavio. And then you take a call whether we want to use the BTP extension suite we are just speaking about for Fiori and ABAP customizations, or we want to do it in the core itself, so that for very standard workflows and very standard approvals, a person doesn't even go outside. He does everything as a small, extension on S4 itself. So, I mean, I'm happy to share this slide with you as well, but I didn't want to dive into this in detail. But if you look at, we have all the BTP services that we spoke about earlier mapped to this to say which all services, even during my migration or my blueprinting, could probably add some value to optimize my core processes and my core flows. So these are all the services that we spoke about, right from AppGyver, the low code to no code to low code, to the data warehousing that we spoke about, to the event mesh for integration when it comes to sharing, analytics cloud for analysis, and then the entire migration with master data governance, and all of these are services that are available, which we can then really choose if we want to use them during our blueprinting.
So, I don't know how many slides you have in overall. Now we have 1 hour.
So for example, in a lead to cash, you typically integrate with something like a CRM or your B2 like a commerce portfolio. So typically all the integrations that you want from Amazon to Salesforce or SAP customer experience to a NetSuite or a Market or a Zoho, Shopify, all of them are available here as native integrations. Similarly, in a source to pay, you would integrate with systems like an Ariba or a Coupa or a Blue Yonder, mostly that are there. And these are just indicative, right? There are multiple others more. And from a hire to retire, it might be success factors, but it will also be Workday, for example. You might be connecting to LinkedIn directly to source and all of that. That is available. From a plan to production, typically you might have some external data of production lying in any of these systems. So we have adapters to this. We have adapters to DocuSign, Adobe Sign, UNEC and ASICS 12, primarily from e-signing and DocuSign kind of capabilities. Payment integration to Freshworks, QuickBooks, Microsoft Dynamics, Sage available here. And from an issue to resolution, Jira is one of the popular ones. We also have ServiceNow, or if it is Salesforce Cloud or any of them, or of course it is SAP Customer Experience, SAP Service Cloud, what we call. All of those issues to resolution is available as well. And one of the important thing to notice, these are all process to process integrations, right? So it is not an API based integration where they give one API, we just pull it and then we do what is there and push it back via an API. These are all actually live flows. So for example, a sourcing event that happens in Ariba or a reverse auction that happens in Ariba I can trigger my procure to pay cycle and look at my purchase order, auto trigger, the purchase order based on a purchase requisition from an Ariba event and those kind of things. I can actually do an application to application logic. I don't have to really take a data, dump it into a data lake or a data warehouse. From there, take it to the ERP. Not like that. It can all be app to app without having to have a middleman or a middle layer, right? And that is the power of the integration.
Is there some integration with Vistex also?
Yes, Vistex is anyway running on the S4HANA box.
Vistex is not a separate thing. The
Vistex
code
will
is
run-
within
It
S4HANA.
will run inside S4.
So there you don't need any integration.
The thin line example, right? So can I put that heavy code into the, as a custom application? It is not possible. At the same time, restricts the kind of cycles that you are running, durations that you are running. It has to be submerged into the product itself. So that is where we suggested not customizing through this, but however, we are taking a couple of scenarios from you. One of the scenarios probably in the company is we see that along with you, if we can.
For posting to S4HANA, it will
It
go
will go
through
through.
BTP.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Absolutely.
There is one question. You mentioned all the customization should be in BTP that we are discussing. But there are certain information which is a part of the core. That's example what you mentioned, Nagari, that's a schedule for us. But Nagari number is a key information.
Correct.
And that we have to map somewhere in the SAP.
Right.
Core. Okay, like what we got from the team that we have to create the IBD, IBD technical term. Like SAP. We have to create the IBD, and with IBD you have to map that
Nagari,
number.
yes,
That's the
yes.
example.
Yes.
So it is in the core, I think.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
So, like this, a customization, and in core also we are adding such type of.
Absolutely. So I think the idea for you would be to look at these customizations in terms of the simplicity. If we're looking at Nagari to S4 integration, that integration is one part where we're looking at BTP coming in. But once that integration has happened, there is a field that is getting updated with a reference number of Nagari. That reference customization, we go ahead and do it here in S4.
In core.
In core, right?
So
So you can actually then start looking at it in that perspective, the complexity and the amount of impact that it will have on the core table.
Yes.
Idea for us is let us not touch the standard tables so much, but the standard tables also allow for these flexibilities that your Nagari number is getting updated in a text field. The text field is already there in the standard itself. So you're just bringing it and putting it there.
There's no impact.
There's no impact on the standard tables. Wherever standard tables are getting impacted is where we are saying keep it clean. May move it to BTP.
Mark.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So for example, we have scenarios of, let's say, route optimization for sales staff and all of that, which leverages Google Map APIs, which does the route optimization. Then it is linking with the dealer network and then a predictive recommendation of the route and what should be positioned proactively based on the historic data in SAP, working with the Google Maps and then the recommendation. So I just wanted to explain that concept visually, right? To say, ultimately we are saying the Fiori tile or the S4HANA front end is the unique entry point, right? Now that Fiori front end has an application logic layer. So now I have a decision point to say, should I point an application logic layer all to the S4HANA table where I have done the customization, or at the application logic layer, I say that 70% of the data is in SAP, 30-40% is a customization. And the application logic layer has a metadata model which knows where to pull what. And ultimately to the user, it is a very customized screen, but your core is still clean. Right? So that is ultimately what I wanted to just showcase.
But through classic interface, it's not possible. SAP classic interface.
You are planning to, it is possible, but then it all becomes not Fiori development. It becomes again more like that BAPI kind of a world equivalent. So yeah, since I got the marker, I'm going to say that if this is the S4HANA front end, and this is my HANA DB where my actual data is lying. I have a option to say, okay, 10% of it is customization. So for the user who is here, he logs in and he gets equivalent. or I say that, okay, it's a 40% customization, let me do it in BTP. Now here there is a metadata management layer which authenticates the user and all of that. So this knows for this particular transaction, X amount of data is here, Y amount of data is here, and holistically XY comes here. Right, and this is that decision point to say, okay, it's only 10%. I'm okay to not keep my core clean because it's it's something that is, it cannot be differentiated for some reason. So then I do it here. But if it is more of a complete satellite, multiple tables that need to be created, then I probably do it here. And that metadata management part is here. But again, as I'm insisting that immaterial of where this sits for the end user, it will be seamless from a business process standpoint. It's only about how clean do we want to keep the core. Because I have seen in projects, once we start touching the core, it's very hard to stop. Everything then gets pushed to the
I'll
core.
take one additional view to this. When we are doing the customizations and we are pulling data from any external system, the first thing for us is to look at where that external data can be mapped in the standard table structure. There is a possibility that I may find a direct mapping in my core system. If such a mapping is existing, then via the integration layer, I bring in the data, map it to the standard field, and my customization is restricted to only that integration. When I do not find such a field, and the example I take again, continuing the eNagari example, the eNagari number is coming in, I don't have an equivalent of that. Therefore, I'm looking at inbound delivery as an example, and inbound delivery will be a document that SAP will create. However, when I'm referencing to this, I want to understand what is that eNagari number. So it is a mapping of eNagari number into some attribute of that inbound delivery. There are multiple attributes that get provided. I can map it to one of those attributes. Still, I'm not touched the core. If I'm going beyond this, that I've not found any equivalent field, I've not found an attribute, and the field needs to be customized, that is when we're getting into this logic that Varun is explaining.
Right.
Just one question. S4H is a front ending, I think.
HANA. Yes, for HANA. Yeah.
So means core you mean only database, not the front ending.
Everything, both.
So
there is custom logic to identify where we go to the BTP and go to the HANA. Those custom logic
that is not
give that intelligence now.
So what I'm saying when I say S4 HANA, here is the Fiori cockpit. That is your entry point. Now there is a, as I was talking about that UX design part of BTP, it allows you to extend your Fiori application. So ultimately, I will use the same BTP to create this extension. So for a user, this Fiori is not standard Fiori anymore. It is a customized Fiori, which is absolutely okay because my core is still clean, right? Whatever customization has been done is from a user-centric persona level. So that, user interface point of view. So that is that. So probably I shouldn't call it S4 HANA because S4 HANA ultimately is the whole system, right? This I should just call it Fiori. Into rover for a second, I thought it's permanent.
What extent one should utilize these additional fields in the S4, which are reserved for the future utilization perspective? But now itself, if I find all those fields I'm consuming, is it okay, or is it? I say, for example, there are 10 additional fields being given in the standard. HANA. Now, all the 10 fields I'm consuming at this stage itself, is it okay? While doing certain mapping or something, I'm utilizing it, all the additional fields.
It's okay. Again, if it is not mission critical, then we can still push it to BTP. But I think that is when we do that blueprinting, there is no need to keep a backup because after a implementation exercise of S4, it is very rare that new tables get added. So during blueprinting, you don't have to keep buffer for the future. Worst case, if you require, you can create new custom ones. So I would recommend that if you can leverage them. Okay. So from integration, as Mahendra was also pointing out, we have an entire API hub where you can go in and see all the APIs that are available from integration. So all the 2,500 plus, you can apply a filter based on application to application, data to data, process to process. All of that, it can provide. Just losing some connectivity. But if there are no questions on integration, I will just move to the process automation piece.
Just a small query related to integration.
Sure.
What I want to understand is what is the level of data integration between BTP or BTP and SAP? I mean, we say that whenever there is a data interchange between two such platforms, either it is push-pull or metadata.
Yes.
Okay. So in this case, in SAP, there are various modules.
Correct.
So for example, in calibration TP or PM module, we are having a master data and all the fields are exactly mapped to each other.
Yes.
So there is complete integration.
Yes.
Suppose I build any application in BTP platform. So how much is the integration field to field mapping with the core SAP? Or we have to map each and everything through some APIs, or there is some kind of integration inbuilt in BTP and SAP?
There is some kind of integration inbuilt. So broadly, there are 4 integration mechanisms. One is, as you said, metadata, which we call as a federated model. So where the data is still in SAP and I am using only a federation of the data there. Then we have something called as a trigger-based replication. So whenever there is a change data happening in SAP, it pulls. Then thirdly, we have the scheduled replication, which every 1 hour it kind of pull. And then there is a dump, right, where I can take a time series based snapshot and extract. So all of these are supported and it depends on what scenario I'm using. So in that scenario, for example, I am not doing any replication, right? Let's say I am using the sidecar approach on HANA, where I've built a new custom table. BTP in that example is having 0 data transfer because I am only using the skin part of BTP, not the data part of BTP. But if I am using a satellite application on BTP, for example, then I am actually leveraging some data that I am collecting on the satellite application. Maybe I'm aggregating it and then posting it. So a very simple example, I am into, let's say, a milk delivery business. I'm asking all my delivery people how much milk that you need. They all have a custom app. They put their requirement. It is aggregated and then punched in at the end of the day onto the ERP system, right? So then this becomes then a scheduled based replication that I do into SAP. But there are scenarios, for example, the one that I am showing you, like in analytics, for example, we have the content network for analytics. So if you look at the business content that we provide, and this is true for RPA and stuff also. If I look at the content network where we are providing pre-built content for all of this, and if I take finance as an example, right, it will tell me that this content is expecting a certain form of data, right, in the backend. So for example, cash flow, P&L, growth, profitability, all of these are KPIs that are provided in BTP, right? And for this to work, the system says that this is all getting pulled from the AC Doka table. So then this becomes an actual one-to-one mapping of the data model in S/4HANA to the data model that we are providing in analytics for it to work as plug and play, right? Otherwise, you'll have to manually configure. So this similarly applies for, in the next, presentation, when we talk about all the process automation and stuff, then the same concept applies, right? So all these RPA that we are talking about, and even the pre-trained bots that I will talk about in the RPA store that we provide. In order to cache, we have multiple RPAs that are plug and play and all of that. So these will share the same data model of S/4HANA to be plug and play in reality. If I have made some customization, then I will have to tweak this pre-built bot. Right? Hope that answers of how the mapping between BTP and SAP is.
Just I need a little bit more clarification. Suppose if I build, for example, a module in BTP, suppose I build a module on new part development.
Okay.
It's not a very elaborate model in current SAP. Suppose I build it there, and I need some data from inspection module or audit module. So those modules I am using standard.
Okay.
So if I put the transaction number of SAP, if I put the transaction number of SAP of that related inspection lot or that audit module or that calibration number in BTP, so will that integration be possible or they have to do it manually?
It will be possible. Absolutely. So again, so then it is only question of do I look at an app to app or a data to app kind of an integration? What protocol? But these are certain scenarios, right? So we have example in like this in shop floor automation, even to say the purchase order data is in SAP, the supplier data is in SAP, a thermal camera is checking for any defect in the metal kind of a thing. And then based on that, look at what batch number is this, what purchase order is this, even bring in vibration and thermal sense IoT data. So IoT data, image data, and SAP data blended in together, and based on that trigger a exception to say reject this particular batch kind of a thing. So all of that integration suite is very well capable of doing. Okay, so just on the process automation piece, I'll just go in that. How are we doing on time?
We have 36 minutes.
So yeah. So what we can also do is we have what we call as technical academies for all of these solutions, be it from analytics to data warehousing to process automation to low code, no code app development. Like 2 or 3 are hands-on that our team can do with you remotely or on site, where we can give you logins. There is a specific script that you can build as well. We can do that for any of these ones that you actually want to play around and see a little more in detail. Right. So I will just quickly touch upon what process automation entails. Right. So if we typically, I'm screen is still shared. Okay. If we look at this entire for example a record to report process in SAP, which is one of the core process. So we have create, post, close, and report as the various parameters available. So whenever we have when we look at this process, there are various last mile gaps that might be there, right? So for example, your ability to automatically upload a general ledger, right? Locking or unlocking of a profit center based on certain rules, right? Depending on how much open is there, not open is there, you can set those rules and that can be automatically locked or unlocked. There can be various workflow related flows like group reporting, data collection, central finance related, GRIR reconciliation. So in this entire process, which the core backbone of S4HANA, so wherever I have mentioned this kind of a robot kind of a head means it is an RPA. Wherever we have a flow kind of a thing, it is a workflow. And wherever we have this, head kind of a thing, it is an AI trained bot. So like this, by process, there are various last mile innovations, what I like to call, that are possible and are provided as pre-trained content in something like, SAP process automation. And SAP process automation is, again, I'll just go into one view and I'll come back. SAP process automation is not just RPA, right? If you look at it, it is again a collection of microservices where you have, of course, the entire automation, the RPA bot capability, but you also have the business rule capability, a business rule engine, the task center that we mentioned, the entire AI and intelligence, custom forms that you might want to create to capture some kind of a data, an entire process mapping, an advanced workflow, and also the low code, no code application development that might need to be plugged into the process automation. Right. On top of it, we also have Quadrix, which is basically if you are going to capture any user feedback, saying that, hey, what is the bottleneck in your process based on which I want to say. So SAP has Quadrix, which basically does experience management. And I was talking about Signavio, which is basically process mining, which can help you to model processes like procure to pay, order to cash, and then look at what is the bottleneck and what I can automate. Right. And again, this is a very powerful tool for us to identify bottlenecks in a process using a system-driven script. Whereas process automation allows us to take these insights and user feedback and create end-to-end applications using these microservices. Right. So this is essentially what you will also hear from SAP as SAP Build platform, which allows us to build various extensions and automations based on all of these microservices. So this in essence is what SAP process automation is. And if you look at for S4HANA specifically and just talking about finance, what are some of the pre-trained, ones that are provided, and they're all in API Business Hub, but for some reason my app is not opening. My website is not opening, maybe because of the hotspot. But if you look at right from accrual object creation to canceling an invoice to customer business discontinuation, direct supplier down request, fixed asset transfer, general ledger master record creation, all of that automated manual entries. So if it is an RPA, it is already available in the SAP RPA store that you can download, which I was trying to do. I'll again once try. आपका चल रहा है क्या? I mean, when I press it. No. It's working, but in the website, it's somehow can't be reached. Oh no, it's. So if you can see, this is.
It's working.
So this is the intelligent RPA store, as I was saying. So you can look at, for example, I have by category, by application, by line of business, and by industry. So for example, if in finance, I have 118 automation packages available. So I can just click on finance. So I can see asset transfer within company code, right? Whether it is an untrained bot or a scheduled, unattended bot or a scheduled bot. Well, an unattended bot means it works on its own. Attended means there is a person who approves or rejects. So similarly for make to order, make to stock, you might have an authorization rollout, right? So similarly, we will pass on this link to you. There are various bots available. And very similarly, even in the API Business Hub, where there are various other automation packages available from SAP. Right. So right from this one, which is, canceling customer invoice, but I just go to the main one. So for example, I will say my product here is S4HANA. Right. So for S4HANA, what are the various APIs available? What are the various packages available? What are the various workflow related scenarios available? So for example, automation of customer service, accrual object creation, all of these workflows, are available for me to, just take, plug and play and use, right? So I can just use, just click. I can get them into my BTP tenant. And use it, right? So there is also something called as a Business Technology Platform Discovery Center, which you can go in and try these applications, in a click-through manner, right? How the workflow looks like. It will have a click-through kind of a demo. So you have something called as missions here. So I can go into my mission catalog. And in the mission catalog, you will have various ones, right? So for example, related to artificial intelligence, related to planning, related to integration. So let's say related to integration, it will show me getting started with it. How do I simply connect to any application using Open Connector, send electronic invoices, integration assessment, that intelligent advisor that I told you. I can go into each of them. Then I can click on start mission, and it will allow me to kind of play around with the system as well. So it's a very nice place to go and look at all of what we learned in a kind of a visual manner. You also have customer stories, the API Business Hub, tutorials, communities, all in one single place. So everything related to BTP, the Discovery Center is a good place, for us to look at, right? Any questions? I have a couple of demos, but anyway, if we want to do a deep dive on this later on, then we anyway do it. But I can just show you how the look and feel of the system looks like. Any questions? So this is, for example, the RPA factory. So as I said, everything has a UI5 kind of a screen. Where I have various environments, agents, packages. So packages is where the pre-trained content comes in. So I'm able to come in, deploy my packages. I say I trigger when this particular event should run. When it should run. So it should run every day, every hour. I can schedule this particular bot. And again, if you see, nowhere I am actually having to script anything, or you see code. It's all visual when I use it. So in which environment? So is it on S4HANA production? Is it on, dev or whatever? So I can choose this, my various authorization rights I can use. And from here, if I want to call any API, for example, for object detection or for OCR kind of a thing, I can use the object detection microservice and bring that in as well. And it is very visual, as in when you see I'm creating this entire workflow and I'm giving from which folder it should read and all of that. I'm not going into the complete detail.
The other templates are already available.
Yes. Yes.
And a detailed demo of all this can be given, maybe I think now since you have taken about finance, so but to the larger group in the finance without being much technical.
Yes.
But more of a business oriented. And maybe for others also, I think maybe to a larger section in say if I just talk about the finance and like you said, uploading manual entries, how does it
Absolutely. And what value it brings in.
Yeah,
So in fact, this was a 30-minute demo I had done for another group of CFOs of a conglomerate last week. I just took the same presentation and it was received very well because we took finance as a topic and we could, rather than going multiple, because that's the heart of ERP in most cases, and said what are the key automation opportunities in finance, what are the examples and what are the typical benefits customers have seen with this kind of automation in finance. So absolutely, there are multiple ways we can go. One, we can do an exec kind of a view for the business users. And also, if you say this process automation plus analytics plus let's say data warehousing or the low code, no code development are three areas where we want to do a deep dive on in terms of a quick hands-on. You can tell us those scenarios and I can arrange like a workshop mode for 3 hours where you get a login, you get a script, you follow the script, we have experts on call.
What kind of, I think the group size, say that, like for that kind of demo, 10, 15?
We have done up to 25, but I would suggest that we don't do everything for everyone. So up to 10, 15, I think it is a collaborative one. More than 15, then it becomes like a classroom. Then it's a little difficult to control. Yeah.
So anyway, that I think we will, internally discuss it and let you know that kind of process automations, etc. Once as for this HANA goes live, what we can do, so at least the guys should know it.
Correct.
Now we have that library, so function by function. But even if you can click any one of it.
And I think what you were suggesting is mainly the supply chain, production, finance. These are the three. Or
There are 7.
No, multiple. So if you just go here, then I have, in category, sorry, not in category, in line of business. Yeah. So I have manufacturing, marketing, R&D, sales, service, sourcing, supply chain, sustainability, asset.
Let's do supply chain and sourcing, making what exactly it is.
Business partner master check.
First
That's
data.
master.
Data. This one is
Create API.
In order, click on that. If you have a scenarios, it can be automated.
So if my planning is happening in an external system and I would like to do my procurement process in a core, I would want to start off with the requisitions. So if an external source like an Excel is being used for all the requirement elements, using that to calculate the requisitions in S/4HANA, this could be one of the.
So here the advantage is we know which version it supports. 2021 is the version right now. Let's say we are planning to implement. So this bot works for that. And we also know this. We can do this. One is you can provide us the list that.
That will internally deliberate and discuss, and then I think sure.
So that is on the workflow side and the RPA bot side. But on the
API and business.
API and integration side also, if you can quickly go to S/4HANA, show them that what are the, or if you go to BTP integration suite, connectors and bring that. So these are the third-party vendors for which the integrations of third-party as well as the governments for which the integrations are being done.
I can just say view all and then give me that. There are 14 pages here.
Let's take an example of Salesforce. Just taking a minute.
Yes, sure.
See. It gives us the scenarios that this integration zooming.
As I said, it's not only data. So for example, if I have to create a sales order in Salesforce also, so it allows create, read, update, and delete. One of the ways that we have seen customers also leverage this, the entire package is to say, if we just go to a whiteboard and say, this is my procure to pay process or an order to cash process, this is my entire process flow. These are the various systems that are there. And then look at how integration plus automation plus maybe Fiori, 2 or 3 things can come together to automate the whole process. And then maybe 70% of it is out of the box. 30% of it can be quickly created using low code, no code. So by process also, we can look at how BTP can overall look at. So there are 2 ways. Either we say, these are the out of the box ones, let me look at and see where it fits straight away. Or we say, let's take a process view and then say, how do we plug the gaps, right? Either ways.
The scenario helps here.
Correct, correct. So maybe just show one. So something like this. Right? Right, to say if this is my, for example, a procure to pay process, right? So this is for a customer, who just mapped their entire procure to pay process visually and said, when I am creating a purchase requisition, I want to predict what is the right quantity. And before I approve a purchase requisition, I need to look at is there unutilized inventory and predict what is the lead time. While I shortlist the vendor, I need a supplier collaboration portal. While I request for a quotation, I want to look at managing the share of business using allocation logic. And then I needed a bot here, an analysis here, a bot to create a PO, and a final liquidity plan analytics or whatever. So this is a good view to say, okay, here is my process. And in this process, these are the various last mile technology gaps that are there. And once I have this, I say, okay, 5 of this is out of the box in SAP's bot store. 3 of this, maybe we'll quickly build it using a low code, no code kind of a prototype.
So this view will be added in Fiori template.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And the way when we do it in a workshop, the way we do it is we kind of figure out all the possible, again, this is just to give you an example of how this. So we look at all the possible innovations that BTP can drive and say how much of them business benefit wise are high and implementation effort wise, which is low or high, right? And then we pick this quadrant, right? Which is to say ease of effort plus high business benefit. And then we take that as a phase 1 implementation with our core S4. The rest of it can happen, as we go, right? So typically this is an example of doing a process first approach, right? Map the process, find the gaps, prioritize my use case, and then map it to the microservices.
So Varun, since the team is in the process of doing the blueprint, would that help somehow if we have that process view from there, pick out a few processes, understand how it has been mapped?
Correct.
Would that actually help us kind of curate this?
Correct, absolutely. So for example, we have done this in we are recording. In one of the largest auto manufacturers, where when they went for their rise journey, we did this process.
Outside India.
Huh?
Outside India.
Very much India.
I'm glad you asked the question.
Very much India.
So where we looked at the various processes that they have, and then said we did this as a workshop, gave them this this magic quadrant, so to say, and then helped them map these processes. We even helped them prototype a few, and then this became their 2-year technology roadmap to say, I start with this quadrant. Over the next 2 years, I want to have the others also done, right? And then it already gives you a finish line, right? Because S/4HANA is not the end point, of course, it's a starting midpoint to say. So we are happy to also do that kind of a workshop with you. If you feel that during your blueprinting phase also, it will benefit to kind of look at a reimagined process, so to say, maybe procure to cash, order to pay, whichever one, and then say, hey, can we reimagine the process and see how with S4 plus BTP we can make it seamless. We're happy to do that as well. But yeah.